Hello everybody, how's it going? I'm the Timmeister and welcome back to the Timbukton region. Today guys, we're going to be working on West Aberdeen, and that is basically a suburb of the town of Aberdeen we worked on a couple of episodes ago. And this region will host a plethora of different things to do. So in this episode, we're going to be working on a campground, we're going to be working on a golf course, and a few other knickknacks here and there. So it should be a pretty interesting episode. So sit back and enjoy. So the first thing we're going to get started on are the actual outer suburbs of the town, and this being sort of on the outskirts of town, the house is going to be a little bit newer. I'm going to build a little residential section with somewhat more modern homes, but first I'm going to start to terraform the area because I thought it was a little bit high in comparison with the water level. I didn't really like that very much, so I'm just going to lower the ground level a little bit and reconstruct the road here, and we're going to be adding some residential here in a second. Now before getting too deep into this episode, I'm just going to go over what we've done last episode in the commentary free highway building project. So basically I constructed a large trumpet interchange which will provide a relatively good highway access for Aberdeen County to the rest of the region. Now in the last episode I said that it would give it a little bit more fuck. Now in the last episode I said that I would go over some more details, and basically if we get into the highway numbering scheme, the 4-lane highway that's going north to south, that's going to be Highway 10, okay? And the reasoning behind that numbering, I'll get into that in another video, but essentially, as you guys know, Timbukton is in fact in the nation of Aurelia, and the numbering scheme for the highways in this country are similar to the states, although they're going to be opposite. So whereas in California you have Highway 5, in this case the eastern region will be the lowest number for highways. So in this case we have Highway 10, and the east to west 2-lane highway in that's servicing the Aberdeen area is going to be Highway 5. Alright, so that's pretty much all the details that I can give now, and I'll feature a video that'll be completely about Aurelia's highway system and other information on the country, because I have pretty much the whole country mapped out now. I'm still working on the actual road map of the entire country, and as you can imagine, it's a pretty big feat to complete. So anyways, the north to south Highway 10, the story behind that is it's going to start obviously at the northern part of the map. It's going to go all the way south. It's going to pass through the suburbs of the actual city of Timbukton, so we'll get to that in a future episode. Now that is pretty much all I can say about last episode, and if you haven't guessed it, what I'm doing right now is building an elementary school, and this is the West Aberdeen Elementary School, one of 4 elementary schools servicing the actual county of Aberdeen. So there's one high school and it is located in Aberdeen, and that services the entire county. So each county will sort of have its own school system. As you can see on the right here, I've made use of the new parking lot roads, and I think this is super ingenious. It's super easy to use, and the results are absolutely astounding. I think you're going to see a lot more of these parking lots in the rest of the region. So unfortunately, Aberdeen didn't really live in a time with these parking lots, so there's not going to be very many in this region, but I'm sure that in the rest of the region they're going to be all over the place. So thank you for the creator of these. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be asking for it in the comment section. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be asking for this in the comment section, so I'll just provide a link down below so you guys can download it from the workshop. So after we're done with this school, we're going to move on to the actual residential section that's right beside it. And like I mentioned before, along these streets are going to be more modern housing. And as you can also see here, I'm using a relatively new mod, which are the wide streets. And these are pretty realistic in my opinion, because in especially newer suburbs, the streets have a tendency to be very wide, where you can have cars parked on both sides of the streets and still, having enough room for two cars to pass each other in the actual road. So I like this quite a bit, honestly. It adds another sense of realism. So I'm pretty excited to be able to use these. I've actually edited some parts of around Aberdeen to feature these roads. I haven't featured them in any videos, but they are there, and I sort of just use them as a test, and I'm super happy with the way they look. And one thing I'm really excited about is once we get into the suburbs of Timbuktu, where it's an actual city, so there's going to be quite a few of these large streets. In little towns you'll only have like these tiny subdivisions, but once we get into Timbuktu we'll get into some much bigger neighborhoods. Now, as we go along in this episode, I'm going to start to work my way west. My idea for the series is I want to continue on west from Aberdeen and finish the entire Aberdeen County on that side, and there's still the eastern portion to finish, so that's probably not going to be next episode, but the one after. So there's only a little part of Aberdeen County that I didn't finish on the eastern part, so I'm not even sure if I'm going to make an episode for that yet. It's only like a little bit of farmland, and I'm not really sure what I want to do there yet, but I might feature a short 10-15 minute video on it, and that will bring us to the end of the Aberdeen region. So I'm going to post a poll later on once we reach that point, and I want you guys to let me know where you want me to start to develop next. I was sort of thinking the southernmost or the southeasternmost region, and start to build some little towns here and there. And that region is going to feature much more beaches. It's going to be a really touristic region. It's going to be quite interesting. There's going to be a lot of agriculture as well. But anyways, I don't want to bore you guys with too much details right now. We'll get into that in a later episode. But I just want to sort of keep you guys updated with where I see the series going in the future. So, I found this nice bridge on the workshop a couple of days ago. I thought it looked great, and it's pretty much the perfect length for this particular area. So, I just sort of edited the height of the stock City Skylines bridge here to match this bridge. And this road in particular, I developed a little backstory behind it. And basically, it's an old two-lane highway that went from Aberdeen to Timbuktu. It was sort of like, your main highway, maybe built like in the 50s or 60s before four-lane major highways were a thing. So this is why there's a little interchange that's intersecting with the road below. Now, I know this is technically no longer in Aberdeen County, but that's okay because it's still a vital connection to the rest of the region, and it no doubt benefits Aberdeen County, so it is a important piece of infrastructure for the town. And I'm sure this intersection will get much used in later episodes. Once we start to develop this whole region, a lot of people are going to be going to work in Aberdeen around this part of the on this side of the river, so it's going to have to handle a quite big amount of traffic. What really bothers me here is lately I've been suffering from some pretty bad performance issues in City Skylines, and I haven't quite dialed in what the cause of it is. So I was sort of testing the game here, and I lowered my graphics settings to the medium setting, and this is why the lines here on the road look absolutely terrible. You can even see the sort of notches between them. Not really sure how to explain it, but I think you guys know what I mean. But yeah, it just sort of sucks that we're not even a quarter into the series. We're only at 10,000 people, and I'm already suffering from some pretty bad performance issues, frame rate drops. If I'm looking at the entire region of what we've built so far, I get 10 FPS. So I'm not quite sure why the game is struggling so much at the moment. I have yet to dial that in, but I'm hoping to find some way to improve the performance before we get too deep into the series. Once we hit like 100,000 people, I don't even want to imagine how poorly the game is going to run. But we'll hopefully get everything fixed before then. One thing that I'm super looking forward to be doing is this year I'd like to upgrade my PC, if not build a new one. And right now I'm running on a 3.5-year-old system that I built when I was in college, and it's starting to show its age. It has an i5. I put a GTX 970 in it, which is still a super good card. I don't think the problem is really the card in this case. I think the problem is more or less the processor. I have an i5 4690K that's overclocked to 4 gigahertz, and I'm still getting some pretty bad results with City Skylines. So I don't know if an upgrade to like maybe an i7 7000 series, like a 7700K or something, might fix some of the issues. I'm not really sure. I'd have to check some benchmarks and all that. But that's something that I'm possibly looking forward to do in the future. If not, I'm just gonna, go all out and build a new computer. Maybe throw in like a GTX Titan or something. Because my computer is actually struggling with video editing a little bit too. I use Sony Vegas, and as you know, it's a pretty powerful tool, especially with the newer versions. I think it's pushing my system to its limits. Just to render a 30-minute video, it takes me about just shy of 2 hours to render a video. So I'm looking for, a little bit more performance, and I'd like something that, not necessarily like a gaming rig, but more or less of a sort of workstation. So that's something that I would like to complete in the 2018 year, hopefully. So we'll see how the series goes along. I think I might maybe start a Patreon page or something. I wonder if that's something that you guys would be interested in. In the near future, I was sort of looking to get a better audio system. So right now, I guess I'm using a pretty decent mic. I'm using a Zoom H1, if you guys are familiar with that. And don't get me wrong, it's a really great mic. But the only problem that I'm having with it is it's sort of... It captures everything that's around it. I'm not really sure what the correct term is, but whether the sound is coming from behind the mic or on the side, left, right, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's going to capture that sound. It's really like an audio recorder rather than, a good microphone. So, you guys can obviously hear me typing and clicking and all that sort of stuff. I'd like to avoid that as much as possible. So one thing that I was sort of looking forward to getting in the near future is a shotgun microphone. So for those of you who aren't too familiar in the audio world, basically what a shotgun mic does is it captures the sound coming directly in front of it, and it cancels out any sound coming from side to side or behind it. So that would improve the audio quality a whole lot. Like I said, you guys wouldn't be able to hear me clicking or typing during live sessions or anything like that. If there's any background noise, it should limit that a lot more than this microphone. Also, I don't have the deepest radio voice ever, and that's something that honestly bothers me a little bit, but whatever, I just get over it. But I think that a shotgun mic would slightly improve the audio quality a little bit, because this mic here, what's happening is it's capturing the sound bouncing off the walls, and it's just coming in from every angle, and I think that a shotgun mic would deliver some pretty good results. And I'll also need like a mic boom and a couple of other equipment pieces for all that to work. So that's something that's in the works eventually. I already have an account, but I just haven't set up my page yet. So anyways, I'll keep you guys up to date on what the whole situation with that is. So I'll let you guys know. So here I'm just going to plop down these Strict Toaster seawalls here, and these are a great asset. I've used them a little bit around town, and I think it's the best alternative to plopping down 1.5 million vanilla rocks like I did in the Aubrey City days. And that was the only real possibility that you had back then. So I'm going to work a little bit on the seafloor, add some rocks, some boat killers, just to fluff up the area a little bit. So when we're in town, I like to add a little bit more detail, but once we're in the country, I don't really bother with that as much, just because the area is usually much more vast, and it's sort of harder, or it's not harder, but it's more time consuming. I would spend like 5 minutes on each house, just plopping down fences and dog houses and whatever. So in this case, I just plopped down some houses and roads and a couple of attractions here and there, and I'm pretty happy with that. Because as I've mentioned countless times, if I were to get down to the itty-gritty details of each area, I would never finish this region, and that's not my goal. So I'm going to go ahead and use tree as a verb here for a second. So when I'm treeing a region, what I'll do is I'll select a tree and I'll set the sensitivity of my brush to probably like 1/3, and I'll set the brush size to pretty big, and I'll just start plopping a few trees here and there. Then I'll select another tree with this exact same settings, and I'll start plopping that tree, and I'll do that for maybe 4 or 5 different trees. So it creates a nice mixture of different trees. So what a campground. I have all the trees plopped down. I'll set the sensitivity all the way to the max, and I'll select some bushes or something, and I'll just fill in all the little blank places. So that's just a little tip on how I tree some very large forests, and trust me, there is going to be a lot of forests in Timbuktu. So now I'm going to be working on Aberdeen's campground. If you guys can think of a name for it, feel free to comment. So this is going to be a fully functional campground. It's going to have an unloading depot where basically campers go to unload their bathroom tanks. There's going to be a park. There's going to be bathrooms all around. For all of you campers out there, your basic camping ground layout. As you see me just plop there, I plop down a big campfire site. So that's pretty neat. I'm quite happy with the results of this campground, although I think that something that I could have done a lot better, the roads that I used are a little bit too wide. Looking back now, I think I should have used maybe just some little paths or something, because these roads are wide enough to fit like 4 cars. And typically in campgrounds, they're obviously pretty treed in, and a lot of them, the roads would be a lot narrower. So I think that takes away from the realism a little bit. But that's not something that I'm too worried about. We can improve on that in later campgrounds around town. Certainly there's going to be more. So I'm not going to complain too much about that. So obviously every site is going to have a little picnic table as well as a campfire. And what I'm doing right now is plopping down some fences so people don't go jumping off the cliff. And to my surprise, this was actually pretty challenging to build, not in the sense that, it required a lot of time and effort to do, but the problem is there's not too many camping assets on the workshop. I had to go shopping for maybe an hour before I was satisfied with what I found. So I had to improvise quite a bit on what assets I was going to use and other things like that. But there is a pretty good assortment of actual camper vans and fifth wheels and actual campers. The only problem that I found with that, I don't know if the creator of these assets was European, but searching for the campers was a big hassle because they go under the name of caravan, and I know in North America it's not a term that's used too much. So I found myself going back and forth from the workshop and the game just to find what name the asset was under. So that was kind of interesting. now the final step in building this campground is just to add a couple details here and there, just to mix things up a little bit. A lot of times especially with seasonal campers, a lot of people will build decks around their campers, and they'll have a barbecue and some chairs and some tables built in. Some people actually have some pretty fancy setups. So for this, I sort of improvised a little bit. I've used a couple of different asset packs and combined them to create these sort of custom assets, and I work them around the campers. So I think it adds a little bit of life to the area, a little bit of variance. And what's nice is I can just copy and paste these little custom-made assets here and there. So whenever we build another campground, I can just sort of copy them over. So yeah, that is going to be pretty much it for the campground, and I'm pretty happy with the results. Although I think I could have improved on a couple of things. One being the super wide roads. I think I should have used paths. And another thing, I guess I could have added a little bit more flora and fauna and whatever, some more plants. But as you guys know, I'm not really a big fan of doing that. It's kind of annoying in my opinion. Now that we have the clubhouse plopped down, I just want to edit it a little bit because it looks a little too vanilla in my opinion. So the golf course here in a minute. Before I started anything off, I just wanted to mention that I built this diamond interchange not too far from the trumpet interchange we built last episode, and here's also a little sneak peek of what the golf course is going to look like. So the reason I built this interchange is just to provide another connection to West Aberdeen. Oh my god. Now that we're done the campground, we're going to move on to the golf course. This is only going to be a 9-hole golf course. It's not going to be very big, but I guess it goes well along with the town of Aberdeen, which is not very big itself. This is only one of maybe like 5 or 6 golf courses that are going to be in the region. And of course, I don't know if this is going to be the smallest one, but there are some golf courses. Oh my god, I can't even talk today, guys. Like, when I'm editing these videos and just talking for hours and cut and... Alright guys, so now there are 10 takes before I get it just right. That's something I struggle with, but anyways, I don't want to go too much off topic. This is probably going to be one of the smaller golf courses in town, or in the region. There's going to be some much bigger ones, especially around the city of Timbuktu. There's probably going to be some 18 holes, and well, I'm not really sure what comes after that. I don't know if you can have like 20 holes or 22 holes. I don't play golf. I've played like once or twice in my life, so I'm completely clueless when it comes to the game. But nonetheless, I mean, not to brag, but I think I build a pretty decent golf course in the game, like you're gonna see here in a minute. But some of these golf ranges are pretty huge, and I wasn't able to fit them all, so I basically just went through the entire list and chose some of the smaller ones. So anyways, I have all the greens plopped down, and I'm going to work on the parking lot and the clubhouse now. And you guys will see that the asset that I chose for the clubhouse is actually pretty cool. It's like a mayor courthouse looking building, and I had so much trouble plopping it down. I don't know, it seems like it was some sort of glitch in the game, but whenever I tried to move the building with the Move It tool, it would just elevate the whole thing. I can't remember if I recorded part of this, but yeah, just like this. It's the weirdest thing ever. And it doesn't do it every time, it's completely random. Now that we have the clubhouse plopped down, I just want to edit it a little bit because it looks a little too vanilla in my opinion. So using the prop changer tool, I'm going to change the trees for some more realistic ones, and I'm also going to sort of decorate the area, add some golf carts here and there, and a couple of other things just to spruce up the area. And those power lines that you see me just plop down, I love those. I just recently downloaded them and I think they're great. What happens a lot of times is if you're playing City Skylines the same way that I do, you're sort of creating like an art piece, and you don't necessarily want to plop a power plant just anywheres. So what I usually do personally is I'll plop a nuclear power station, far away from town, and I'll just run a huge power line into town. The tricky thing with that is if you get them into your cinematic shots, it kind of ruins the shot a little bit. So with these tiny power lines, they not only enable you to get better cinematic shots because they're not in the way, they also look super good. They look way better than the vanilla ones. And what I've found myself is even when I'm moving a power plant from place to place as the region expands, I found myself just keeping the power lines where they are because they just look super good no matter where you plop them. So yeah, I think that they're a pretty good asset, and shout out to whoever uploaded those to the workshop. I'll put a link down in the description. Now, as we approach the end of the episode, I want you guys to participate in two things. Well, three, sort of. I want you guys to name the golf course as well as the campground. So comment below what you guys, with your ideas. Also, the second thing, I want you guys to decide on what we're going to work on in, I guess you could call it Season 2. Because we're approaching the end of Aberdeen County. We're going to move on to another area of the map. And I want you guys to choose what we're going to be getting into. So next episode will be the final episode on Aberdeen County. So I'm pretty excited to move on to other projects. And what's fun with this project is we're not necessarily killing off Aberdeen. It's still going to be a part of the map. We're just moving on to a different area. So there's going to be a completely different styling, different theme. So it'll, freshen me up a little bit, I guess. And well, you guys too, because you'll get to see a little bit of a different environment. So let me know in the comment. Well, no, actually, I'll put a poll. I'm going to put a poll in the video. So for the names of the golf course and the campground, comment below. And for the next region that we're going to be looking at, I'm going to put a poll on the video. So at the end of this video, at the very end, I'm going to display the entire map as well as the 4 different counties, just so you guys can remember where everything is. And you can select the in the poll whatever area we're going to work on next. So stay tuned for that, guys. It's going to be way at the end of the video. So before we end this episode, obviously we're going to showcase what we've built so far. So stay tuned for that as well. And as usual, guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel for much more content on the way. And until the next episode, guys, please take care. Just on a side note, if anybody can develop and release some American-style rule roads, that would be great. If you guys could release that on the workshop, I'll donate $10. I'm serious. Like, I've been looking forever and ever on the workshop, and there's just nothing there, and I keep having to make my own custom sort of rule of roads just by using the stock vanilla roads and passing over with the surface painter to remove the sidewalks. It's a pain in the ass, and it's not efficient. So if anybody can release some nice American style rule of roads, I'll donate $10, 10 Canadian dollars. So if you live in the States, that's like 13 bucks. Anyways, thanks so much guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.